Hi, my name is Karen,
And my name is Lauren.
and this is our almost aborted story.
I was an 18-year-old college freshman who never ever thought about having a baby. I viewed pregnancy as a problem that needed to be eliminated so that I could get on with my life.
There were people in my life who told me that abortion was wrong, but I didn't see it that way, and all I thought was, well, they're not in my shoes.
I basically set off on a track to have an abortion. And I was at the University of Arkansas, and the closest abortion clinic was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So they did abortions to 12 weeks.
I went there well before 12 weeks, and when they did an ultrasound, it showed that I was more than 12 weeks pregnant, and so they wouldn't do the abortion.
In panic and fear, I next set off to have an abortion in Little Rock, Arkansas. And they did abortions to 15 weeks. And the ultrasound there showed that I was like over 18 weeks pregnant.
So the abortion clinic in Little Rock was kind enough to let me know about a clinic in Dallas that did abortions to 20 weeks. So I headed off to Dallas, and when they did the ultrasound, it showed that I was 21.6 weeks pregnant, and they couldn't do the abortion.
I proceeded to have a hysteria, an emotional breakdown in the abortion clinic, and I realized at this point that I wasn't in control of what was happening.
It was so obvious to me that God was orchestrating what was happening.
They told me about another clinic in Dallas that did abortions up to 22 weeks. I knew if I left and went there that the ultrasound would show
I was over 22 weeks pregnant, and got them to agree to accept the ultrasound from the first clinic.
So I went there, and at that time, at that gestation, an abortion took 2 days.
So they inserted laminaria into my cervix to dilate me overnight, and then I would come back the next day to have the procedure done.
That night, your dad was calling me, begging me not to go through with the procedure.
I was scared, I was hurting, and the family that I was staying with in Dallas, the lady was pregnant at about the same stage that I was at.
She made the comment that that the baby was probably moving, and I didn't even know what that was.
And I thought that fluttering sensation that I felt was you. But I didn't know. I thought I had gas.
So at that point, I told your dad that if he would come and meet me at the abortion clinic, that I would stop the process because I was afraid.
The next day, when I got to the clinic and got off the elevator, he was standing there.
And so we went in and told the abortionist that I had changed my mind.
And he told me that there was a very good chance that I would, that the baby would be born anyway
Because I was fully dilated.
Your dad had set up an appointment for me already at an OBGYN in Little Rock.
And when we got back to Little Rock and went to that appointment, he told me that my cervix was tight as could be, and that there was no chance of miscarry or premature birth, and so everything was good.
Your dad also had, through conversations, had found a place for me to live.
This wonderful family who had 2 small children, and they just wanted to do something to help with the pro-life cause. And I lived with them for 2 months.
The plan was that you were going to be put up for adoption. There had never been any talk of marriage or creating a family.
But unbeknownst to me, after I went to bed every night,
Bill and Jana were counseling your dad.
and that he needed to step up, but I didn't know anything about that.
When I went into labor at 26 weeks, everything changed because everything happened so unexpectedly and
Quickly, that the staff at the hospital didn't know that you were supposed to be put up for adoption.
And after you were born, you were whisked off to the NICU. And your dad went and sat with you in the NICU.
And then at some point, one of the nurses came in and asked me if I wanted to see you. And I said yes. I don't even know why I said that.
Because like after I saw you, there was no way that I could give you up. So it was love at first sight.
So I grew up knowing that I was born premature,
Mm-hmm.
but that's really all that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
So describe why that was the information you told me growing up.
We were very open with you and your sisters that you were conceived before we got married. Like you always knew that.
When I was 40 years old and I returned to college, I had decided that I wanted to be a teacher.
Out of nowhere, I had this overwhelming sense that I needed to go home and tell you your story.
And I was scared to death because I didn't know how you would respond.
I had just graduated from college and was at a point in my life where I was wondering what was next and really wrestling with God's plan for my life. The day that you came into my bedroom and asked if we could talk and told me that there was more to my story that I didn't know about, it was a really big shock to learn that I was almost aborted. And so I knew at that moment that God had a plan for my life, and it was different than the plan that I had, and that I was called to share my story, because it's not really my story, it's His story anyway. So that began a process and a journey of me looking for ways to share it, but waiting until you were ready for me to do that.
Which took how long?
20 years. 20 years in the making.
Yeah. So after hearing your story, what would you want other people to know?
That God has a plan for every life He creates. Your life is an accident. And just because the circumstances of a woman's pregnancy are difficult, it doesn't mean that that life growing inside of her has any less value. I'm thankful for my life, and I'm thankful that God intervened in such a miraculous way that I get to live my life and I get to share my story, and that I get to talk about the value of every human life, because that's not something that's valued in our culture today.
What I would want someone to know is that just because you didn't intend to become pregnant, that doesn't mean that things can't work out for the best. I would want a young woman who is unexpectedly pregnant to know that there are people out there who will support you and help you, that you have to look for them. I would also like for especially the church to know that there are a lot of women out there who were or who are in the same shoes that I was in, and your help is invaluable. And it's good to throw money at a cause, but it's even more valuable for boots on the ground. Be inconvenienced and actually help someone.